Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Rising Coaches with Sofia Bernardi. I am so grateful, as usual, that you are all here and that I am here in this moment being able to record this podcast episode for you. Guys, I have so many incredible updates in my life right now. If anyone's watching the video version of this podcast, you will see that I'm in a different location, and that is because my beautiful partner and I have just moved interstate from Adelaide to Brisbane. So exciting. This is my second day here. So it's brand new. So over the next coming weeks, I'm going to be very raw and real, sharing how I'm experiencing it, what's going on, lessons I'm learning, what's coming up, all of the things. And I just have so much I want to speak into. I'm just in a place right now in my life where I'm feeling extremely grateful, extremely, and abundant as well. So come follow me on Instagram if you want to watch the in the moment journey, but otherwise stay tuned for, the next few weeks for me to share deeper. But today we have something very special. I have not had a guest on the podcast for quite some time, but today we do. And that is my beautiful friend, Laken. So Laken is a business and boundaries mentor, and she has over 10 years experience of running different companies, and boundaries, personal power, communication has really been the foundations that she's built all of her success upon. And, in this podcast episode, she dives so deep into being so transparent about some of the really big and heavy things that she went through, from abuse to, challenging relationships and finding herself bankrupt with over $100,000 of debt at the age of 23 and becoming a young mom and a single mom and all of these things. It's a really powerful story to really highlight how you can change your life through boundaries and personal power and communication and self-love and all of those things. So you're going to love this podcast episode if you want to be inspired and motivated and just to feel like anything is possible. That was really what this episode highlighted for me, is that really anything is possible. And Laken's truly one of my good friends now. We are in touch quite a lot, and she's just a beautiful person. And I think you're going to love this episode. So let's dive on in. It was so fun to speak to her and hear her story and have her share her lessons and her takeaways so that you guys can take it all away and implement it. I hope you enjoy, and I'll speak to you next week. Alrighty. Hello, Laken. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me.
I'm very excited about this. We've obviously been connected for quite a long time, and it's really exciting to now be collaborating together. And I'm really excited to dive deep on your entire journey, because you have honestly one of the most inspiring stories I know. We were just talking about this offline, but the lowest of lows, of rock bottom moments in your life, and now to see the life that you're living now in the most healthy, fulfilling relationship, a really solid, successful business and multiple successful businesses you've run, and, being a mom of teenagers, and just, being a true, congruent embodiment of in all areas of your life, which is really, really inspiring. And I know that that's something you're really passionate about as well when it comes to being a mentor, is kind of walking your talk in all areas of your life, not just in one way. And I thought it would be really inspiring today to really talk about kind of where you started and how you, like, the lessons and the journey on how you turn that all around, because I think it will help so many coaches that feel like, because of maybe a particular past experience or a belief they currently hold about themselves, or certain circumstances in their life, they feel like they can't create or have or be everything it is they desire. And I think you're a perfect walking example of literally anything is possible when you work on the power of your mind, essentially.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. So do you want to just start from the beginning, where your entire journey started, wherever feels most natural for you?
Yeah. I think for me, when my journey actually started was when I hit my final rock bottom. And so just for some context, I have lived many lifetimes in this lifetime, and, from things like abuse to parent separation to different dads. I become a young mum. I went and experienced a really high level DV relationship. There was just a lot of things right up until about the age of 20 that I had to walk through and I had to be with and I had to experience. And I was a really unhealed person, like, let's just put it that way. And then at the young age of 19, I become a mum, and that was like just a super challenging time for me. I had very dysfunctional relationships, extremely dysfunctional partners, and becoming a mum at a young age when you're kind of a kid navigating life yourself, it's different, doesn't quite feel like the word, but there's also this other part of you that's like, shit, it's not just about me anymore. Like, there's something bigger than me that I've got to prioritize. And at the time, I was in a very unsafe relationship, and the first 6 months of my son's life was just very traumatic, and we were on the run a lot. And eventually I got myself out of that situation, and it was a big thing. And then at 23, I found myself a single mom. So I had been dating someone for about a year, 2 years. And then I found myself a single mom overnight. So I was like 23, 2 small children, still very lacked self-awareness of myself. Like, I would say I had zero self-awareness of who I was as a human. And that relationship just really ended in really unhealthy ways. And yeah, it just wasn't a good time. And after, like, I would say 5 years in and out of family court, I had to file for bankruptcy, and I lost my family home. I lost my car, like, pretty much had to start again with 2 small children. And at the time I was on the pension. So I was just like, money and that everything was just really tight. But one skill set I always had was a beauty therapist. I'd been doing beauty since I was 14. I left home when I was 15. So it's just naturally something that I'd always had. And I had like little jobs, like I would work at Brumbies, I was at McDonald's, like I did whatever I could to help support me and my kids. But yeah, I was in a job that I really just didn't like. And one day in my lunch break, I walked out and I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm just going to start my own salon. And I didn't even graduate school, FYI. I didn't even finish grade 10. So I'm like, I don't have a business degree. I didn't have any experience of what that would look like. I was just passionate. I loved beauty. And I just knew I could figure it out. I don't know what that internal nudge was. So I quit my lunch break. And yeah, I moved my daughter out of her bedroom into a room with her brother. And I started my salon from my daughter's bedroom in our little unit. And within the first year, I was like literally the most sought out brow wax specialist in town. I'd reached 6 figures. It was just like crazy. And during that time, I also met my now husband, and like we really, people would call it trauma bond. Like, we just met in a really unhealthy time. I just mirrored in the same person in a different body, essentially. And so there's just a lot of work that we had to do. And I would say it was about 25 for me. I was at a rock bottom. I had been on medication for over 10 years to manage my depression and anxiety and all these sorts of things. And we'd just gone on this beautiful holiday to Thailand. And I just come back and I was like 16 kilos heavier. I was just so unhappy with things. And I was just like, there's got to be something else. And I didn't know what that was at the time, but there was this part of me. And like, I just want to like pin drop, this was just definitely my experience where there was something about, it was time to come off the medication and explore who I was without that. Like, I'd been on it since I was like 17 years old. And yeah, I made that decision, and I started to implement health and fitness and just doing things to support me in a new way. And I would say that was sort of the seeds that started to be planted, that I can now look back in hindsight and be like, oh, there was so many things that were starting to come to fruition. And then my partner and I made some really big decisions in our relationship early on and started to get ourselves support. So just like going to events like Tony Robbins and like local retreats and just things like this. And then he worked away the first 4 years. So he was gone 3 weeks out of 4 or 4 weeks out of 5. And then one day we just got to a point where we wanted to start our lives together. And I just said, like, if you don't like the work that much, like, just quit, we'll figure it out. And he rang me back like an hour later. And he's like, I've quit. I was like, oh shit. Like, what are we going to do? And so I doubled down on the salon. By this stage, we'd built a beautiful home and I'd built my own salon and I had a beautiful salon. So I doubled down in the salon, and he always had a big passion for CrossFit. He was very much into CrossFit. And I just said to him one day, I want to start a gym. And I mean, he hadn't even done PT sessions. I was just like, I've got the back end, you've got the front end, like, let's do this. And yeah, within a couple of months of him quitting FIFO work, we started a like little functional fitness box in our backyard. And within 6 months, we had scaled that and outgrew that and hired a big industrial shed, and built an incredible little gym. So I'd say that is a bit of the journey that like kind of brought us up to that point. And then in 2020, the world shut down and we lost our businesses. So we had no idea when the salon or the gym was going to reopen, as did a lot of the world. 70% of our income just ceased. And so we did what we could. We pivoted. We went online with our gym. We gave out all of our equipment to clients and members. But I had been doing a lot of self-development in the background for quite a few years. And I'd been doing a lot of work on myself, and I'd had a couple of in-person clients doing timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, NLP techniques, that sort of thing. And at the time I was working with a mentor doing a program. She's like, why don't you pivot online? And I was like, it was so bizarre because I did online branding and marketing for our businesses, but it's not, I feel like sometimes it's not until you get into the world, you realize how big the online world actually is. And I was like, I can do that. And she's like, yeah. And so, yeah, I pivoted online. And it's just been incredible.
Yeah. I just can't believe like how much has happened in that period of time. Like that's such a transformation. And I can imagine it must be an interesting feeling, even with your now husband, having like met as such different people and looking how you've both transformed like individually and collectively. Like you two wouldn't even be the same people you are now. Is that not like a weird feeling? It's obviously for the better, but that's so interesting. Like when you look back at the beginning, it's like, who are those people? Because I can't even see any of those aspects or qualities of your past life in who you are now. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, like we've done a lot of work to be here, and I feel like where we're at now, and we're coming up, like it's our 10-year anniversary next month. It's almost like we've earned the right. Like we've earned the right to be here. Like we've had to walk through so much, and we've had to recreate our relationship inside of this relationship more times than I can count. And yeah, I look back at, and we talk about this so often because we look back at who we were, and we were just like little chicken nuggets trying to figure it out and do the best that we could. And like our relationship, honestly, my hope is every woman just gets to experience this level of your own, like just self-trust and power in who you are as a woman, but then also just finding your person that you can do life with, and you can grow inside of that with individually and together.
Yeah. And do you feel that sometimes the past experiences you've gone through like creep back in, and you have to like still navigate those things, like, you know, like beliefs, experiences, all of that sort of stuff?
I would say now, with the level of work that I have done and we have done, not really now. But what I say earlier on, yes, like definitely, like the level I was at, like I was a highly insecure, jealous person. Like, I mean, extremely next level. And you can't run a gym when there's girls running around in booty shorts and crop tops and be a very insecure business owner. Like it just does not work. And it was either gonna hinder our business and make me dysregulated 24/7, or I was like, I've actually got work to do here. And that is one of the things I'm just like so deeply proud of, is there is things that used to trigger me with the level to which I was at the time. And they were the big things for me that I had to work through. And that was perfect. Now, those things don't even touch the sides, you know? And I think whilst there's always like room for growth in that, there's just things that, yeah, that it's just not even, doesn't even entertain our relationship anymore. Like we don't even fight. And I mean that like just generally, because we've just done so much work that if there's a disagreement or we don't see eye to eye or we're not getting along, like we just know how to navigate it. We know how to, you know, go away and come back and just like speak into it from such different levels. And we wouldn't have had that awareness 5 years ago. So, but it's consistent work, and you've got to both be willing to do it.
Totally. And I know this is probably such a big question, but when you look back on your journey of how you overcame all of that and to where you are now, like what were some of like the biggest key learnings and things that needed to shift? I know, for example, you talk a lot about shadow work and boundaries and, you know, deeply fulfilling relationships and congruency and all of these things. Do you have any like key lessons that you feel like played a pivotal role in this transformation that would help other people that feel like their current circumstances in life isn't exactly where they want it to be, and they're looking for what is required to start to like move in the right direction?
Yeah. I would say it was building my own external self-awareness of myself and my own leadership. Like there was definitely so many pivotal events and things that happened, but at the core of all of them, I've just always been such a self-responsible human, to the point that sometimes, and we've talked about this, where you can gaslight yourself and take on too much responsibility. Like I've definitely been there. But I would say from when I made the decision to start working on myself, I just was like, where can I take responsibility? Where can I see this differently? And I've always done that. And I think it's just been one of my greatest strengths, is that I'm able to just be such a self-responsible, self-led human. And I'm so willing to inquire into myself, that I shouldn't say never, I'm just very aware that I'm not projecting outwards and I'm not making it about other people. And I feel like if you can always just stay so self-responsible and in integrity with who you are as a person, you're always going to grow from that space.
Totally, I agree. And you and I have spoken a lot about self-responsibility, and I feel like we're very eye to eye in that. And that's something I've struggled with at some points as well, is taking too much self-responsibility. So, and how that can then take a toll on you. But there are a lot of people that live on the opposite end of the spectrum, being in a total victim mentality. And I can imagine that where you were, you know, all of those years ago, it would have been so easy to be a victim because there were just so many things like going against you, right? So how did you go from being a victim to taking like radical self-responsibility for yourself and your results in your life? Big question,
I would say, and it can probably sound a little bit cliche, but like the first thing that comes to mind is like, I decided that I wanted to change my life. I decided that it wasn't working. And while at the time, I probably didn't know what that all meant, because I definitely blamed everyone else. Like I was a victim to everything. I was just like, not my problem, not my problem, not my problem. I was a very angry human. And I would say that I just decided, like I made the decision. And what's come from that is, as I've been going for my goals and my dreams and being a better mom and all the sorts of things, stuff's going to come up. And it's been in going for that and meeting myself at my next edge and my next level that I get met with, okay, who do you want to be now? Like, how do you want to show up now? Because it's easy to be like, oh, I can go, like, this isn't my fault, or business is quiet, or my partner's arguing with me, like whatever it might be. And I've just chosen and decided again and again and again, not to play into that. And I would say like some of the biggest work for me has been that identity work and the shadow work. Like, and back then I didn't know how much of it I was doing because I didn't have the language for it. But I would say like, it's very easy if you're in self-development to just buy into like, be positive, like think happy thoughts, like do the affirmations. And it's like, that's great. And I like so encourage, and it's like, cool, do that. And there's also going to be the other side of that. And it's like, can you meet yourself in that? And can you see the other parts of yourself when you're not feeling great, when there is self-doubt, when things aren't working? Like, who are you in those moments? You know, and that's something like who am I in this moment? And how do I want to tell this part of my story in hindsight?
Yeah, I love that so much. And that takes so much courage and vulnerability and depth to be able to look at those dark parts and own them, and bring them into the light. So yeah, you talk a lot about shadow work and boundaries. Like, where did that start to come in? Because that's like the total opposite of like where you were as well. Like I can imagine, you know, being in those kinds of relationships, like there would have been literally zero boundaries, right? So how did that, like, what role does that now play in your life?
Yeah, I think we start this journey and we kind of go down. I don't know. For me, it's been like we kind of follow a path, and that kind of becomes your thing. And for me, I was actually like either a very high functioning people pleaser, or I just had walls and I wouldn't let anyone in. Like there was just no equilibrium. There was no balance in the middle. And so when I started to do probably 2018, a lot of Harriet Breaker's work and Harriet Lerner, and like just really learning a lot about boundaries and relationships. And I realized that I was just such a people pleaser to the point that it was actually hindering my businesses, like massively hindering my relationships. And my needs weren't met. And I think that was the biggest thing, is like I had grown these two successful businesses and there was still something missing. I just still didn't feel fulfilled. I still didn't experience like thorough joy each day. Like I was running on a dysregulated nervous system. I was burnt out. I was doing so many things. And it was when I started to do the work around boundaries and just learning. And it was just one of them things like I accidentally come across, and then it just kind of stuck out to me and become my thing. Stuff started to really change, like really, really change. And then the more I did that, I just started naturally finding the things that, you just gravitate to the things that you just generally enjoy. Identity work was definitely one of those things. So I had done my trainer's training, my master's in NLP, all the things, and I loved it. And there's a place for it. And then I did a lot of what's called ontological work. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
It just gave me different breakthroughs that I had not experienced anywhere else. And I was just like, what is this? Like, I just become obsessed with it. And I had already been doing so much of it, not even realizing. And it's just where we start to bring our blind spots to the surface. We start to, those parts of us that we deny, the parts that we make wrong, the parts that we don't want to look at, like actually looking at them and being willing to like be with them. And it's completely transformed my whole entire life. And I started this online business as a boundary coach, and I really helped a lot of women with people pleasing, boundaries, relationships, communication. And it's such a core piece of my work now. Like we're heading into boundary season in my world, which is really exciting. But yeah, I just feel like whether you're in the beginning of your boundary and people pleasing journey, or you're a friggin' high level CEO and you've just never learned it, like there's something for all of us in that.
And I love how you just said that it was making those, energetic shifts really that actually then transformed your external results. And I know something that you and I both have in common is talking a lot about the combination of mindset and strategy and energetics in business and in life. What role have you found those three, core pillars play in your business?
Yeah, I think for me, so when I came online in 2020, and I've always felt really, I don't know if I feel like shame might be the right word, but it's worked really easy for me, and I made that wrong. And I came onto the online space and I started promoting one-on-one, and I started doing work. And I mean, like I had 30 one-on-one clients almost instantaneously. I hit 6 figures within like the first 9 months, and it was just working. And I was just so naive to the industry. Like I didn't know all the things you got to do. I just straight up shared my heart, and it worked. What I do want to say in that as well though is, please know I was building a brand for 10 years before that, not knowing that this was going to eventually one day be my thing. So did I have a bit of no, lack, and trust factor around who I was from where I was from? 100%. And I do want to say that's not like I just popped online, I was an overnight success. Like people did know me, and they knew me from a human level, whether it's from our businesses or just from the town I was in. I think that's important as well. But what I learned, the boring strategy, I'm going to call it, in the beginning, like the mundane, the repetitive, like do the things. And at the same time, I had a personal coach that was constantly supporting me through my mindset. It was very it was very scarcity. It was like from a lens, I should say, of like self-doubt. Like, do I know enough? Can I do this? Like, do people want this? Like that sort of texture. And eventually, as my journey's just gone on and I've looked back and kind of reverse engineered how I got here, I'm like, oh, it's both. Like I personally, for me personally, it just feels like it's not one or the other. It's both. And the more that I've met people, I would say like above the 200K a year mark, it's more mindset than it is strategy, you know? And so for me, it's just always felt like And I know we're taught to like get specific, zone right in, and like I totally believe that. And there's this part of me that's like, I can't just do mindset and I can't just do strategy. Like it's got to be a part of my whole entire brand.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. That's why they're my three core pillars, because I found on my journey that like one without the other, just it wasn't working. It either like I was either getting results but inconsistently, or it didn't feel aligned, or it wasn't scalable, or whatever it was. And it really wasn't until I combined both, your psychology, your strategy, and your energy, that things just started to really blow up. But you just said so many golden nuggets that I really loved there. Like I love that you just shared that, yes, your business created so much quick success, which is so amazing. To get to 6 figures in 9 months is just phenomenal. But I love that you shared that, yeah, and you had 10 years of experience of just showing up in all sorts of ways, and that accumulates that like no trust factor and a brand and a skill set as well of being able to show up online, right? So it's not really starting from ground zero. And I think that's so important to share, because so many people can quite easily fall into this trap of comparison of like, well, my journey hasn't looked like getting to 6 figures in 9 months. So what's wrong with me? What am I missing? I can't do this because I'm not like them, kind of thing. And so I love that with your journey, whilst, none of that sounds fun at all, what you went through in the beginning, like it's obviously shaped who you are. And it just goes to show that you can go through anything really. But when you make that decision, like you said, and you go all in to do the deep, really uncomfortable work, and consistently as well, by the sounds, that's what allows you to be able to transform your life. And you've really done a full 180. And so I think that that's so important for people to hear, that like if you can do it, so can they, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I love about you, is that you bring in all those elements for your clients. And I just think it's so important, whether we have a skill set or we're brand new at it, like there's going to be so many different challenges. And to find like a service that you offer, which offers just like a one-stop shop, like it's so, and I think it's just it's so important. And like in the beginning, you're gonna meet yourself in so many different ways. And the other thing that I would say in that, like I've always had support, and I can still speak that until now. I've got myself into rooms, into spaces with mentors that walked the path that I want to walk. And I've always, like 3 weeks before the pandemic hit, I said yes to my mentor. I had made like 2-3 grand in my business, and I said yes to $35,000 for 1 year mentorship. Like it was just that decision. And I still had to find how I was going to make that work each month. Like I knew I would, but there was still like a couple of hundred a month that I was like, all right, I'm going to have to do some things with this. And then 3 weeks later, the world shut down. I didn't pull the plug. I didn't go to my mentor and say, oh my God, well, like I was like, this is the time to double down. This is the time to make shit happen. I've given my word. I've signed an agreement, like done deal. And I really believe it was that tenacity and that grit of not pulling the plug and actually leaning in when I wanted to lean out, that really just like helped fast track a lot of my success. And just having the right support system in your corner as you grow and scale is just like so valuable.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because it is so easy for people to pull the plug the moment things get uncertain, or they have this extremely unhealthy and unrealistic expectation of things happening at a certain pace or in a certain way because they've heard someone else has done that, and then calling it quits really says a lot about where that person is emotionally, right? And there's lacking that self-responsibility piece, and also the longevity piece. Like it sounds like you were just like in this for the long run. Like, of course the money mattered, right? But it was like you were willing to invest so much more than you had made. You weren't being transactional about it. You were like, I'm in this for the long run. I'm here to go all in on this. And that looks like making big and bold investments and going all in on them, not just like dabbling in them or calling it quits when it gets hard. It's like there's lots of hard moments, and there will continue to be so. And you don't just give up because you're in it for the long run. I think when I look at, like you were saying before, like the people that are doing 200K and more, in a year, there is totally a different mindset around it being so much more than just the money. Like it's really about the long run. And there was something you also said before, actually, that I really loved. And that was you know, how when you first started, like you would just, you know, you didn't know what was going to happen, but you just like, you went really, really all in on it. And things weren't perfect, but it was just about so much more than the money. And I think that that's so important. And the strategy part, that's right, that's what you were talking about, like how you weren't like, yes, there was a path to follow, but you were also just like doing it and just like showing up from that with your heart. And when I reflect on my journey, yes, I had a strategy to follow, but also like I wasn't overthinking it. I wasn't like, is this spelt correctly? Is this post perfect? Is this photo perfect? Like, is the time in which I post this perfect? I was just doing everything all the time in any way I could. Like, I was going live whilst out for walks. I still do that. And I was like, you know, coming home from my job and I was going live. I just like made it work. And I feel like that's the biggest difference. Like, yes, the strategy so matters. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're doing, but also just like, don't overthink it. Like, my niche wasn't perfect. It was the most general, broad thing ever. And it worked because I didn't think there was anything. I didn't make it wrong. I just did it, you know? And I think it's just so important to talk into that like, yes, the strategy matters. And it's like so much bigger than that, right? Like, people aren't going to sign up with you just because of like the spelling and the grammar of your post. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Your mindset will trump all the time, like all the time. And it's that saying, like, any strategy will work, but if your mindset doesn't believe it will, it never will. And like, I also just want to say, and I think it's just like super cool, just I know so many that are listening in your world are just like new coaches and upcoming rising coaches. That was my side thing.
Yes.
My full-time thing was my beauty salon, you know, and whilst they got shut down for like 2 months, I had to go back in eventually. And I was also running a gym of up to 100 members at a time. Like, I wasn't in my coaching full-time until 4 months ago. I got to 500,000 whilst only being part-time in here, you know, and I just think that's really important, because so many will be like, I've got to quit my job. I've got to do all the things. And it's like,
oh my God.
Actually, what I believe the most smartest thing you can do is get up from 5 till 9 or stay up from 5 till 9 and spend time on your business while you've got such stability in an income where you're regulated nervous system and you're not worrying and you're not selling out of lack and scarcity, needing to make money. And I feel like that was a really great thing that I did. Like, I was always good with my income elsewhere. So then showing up just got to come from overflow and genuine service. And I feel like it's not until we get to a place where our business is making money that we actually get to come back to service and why we started this. You know, and so many, it becomes around knee jerking in your business, like throwing out an offer, got to get more money, got to do this. And we actually miss the most important thing that we're actually here to do, because it just becomes about reacting to your business rather than creating it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because it's so true. Like, you never want to be in your business coming from a place of lack and scarcity where you actually need the client more than they need you. Like, as soon as that's the dynamic, it's really not going to end well. And quite frankly, people can feel it. So if you're wondering why it's not working, it's so important you're coming from a clear state. And I stayed working in my job, I think, for about 1.5 years before I quit all of my jobs, because I needed that financial security so that I could properly show up in my business. And that really, really served me. I see so many people jump the gun so quickly because they feel like that's an amazing success story and they need to have all of this time to make it work. And I think you're a shining example as well of, like, you know, in the time that you were running 3 businesses, your coaching business, you're running the gym, you're running your beauty therapy business, and they were all like full on. They weren't just like little casual side pieces, right? They were all equivalents of full-time jobs. You have children, you've moved countries, you know, you've gotten married. Like, it's not just like one thing at a time. There's lots of moving pieces here, right? And I think that that's really inspiring to show people that, like, it, like you don't need to use your children or any of like the amount of hours you're working, like, as a reason as why you can't succeed, right? I just think that that's so important that, like, you can speak into that as an example.
Yeah. And I think what's really interesting, like, if anyone's listening that potentially feels like, I can literally not take a ball or another plate, like, I can't, people pleasing, and that literally changed my life, because at the time, if someone had said to me, start another business, I would have been like, I would have fallen apart. Like, it was just like in what was available for me at the time, I couldn't see how I could fit him in the salon and all the things. The reason that I having standards and having boundaries is I was leaking normal. And sometimes we want to get to this place where we're like, I want to do this and I want to do that. Who you're being at that level can't come with you to the next level. And there'll be so many things that you're doing at this level where your boundaries are just not are solid and your standards are just not like set, that actually deplete you. There was things that I was doing in the beginning that I could not even entertain now if I tried, because I don't have the time. But I had enough time to entertain those things back then because I didn't know anything else. And so I think that's important too, because a lot of people can feel so overwhelmed and stressed and be like, no, but I am doing everything I can. And while that gets to be true, what I would say is there's so many rooms in your life, mindset, energetics, boundaries that actually need to be leveled up, where you're going to find so much more freedom on the inside and outside, where you're actually going to have enough energy to be able to show up for the things that really matter.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I have one last question, like on that topic, that I'd love to ask. And that's, there's a lot of noise and talk right now in the online space of like hustle being bad and working hard being bad, or working long hours, or working on weekends, or working outside of the 9-to-5 period being like bad and wrong. Like, did you need to do any of those things when you were in that period of like, you know, managing like children and 3 businesses? Like, did that look messy? Did that look going out of your way at times? Did that look like hard work and long hours in order to make that all happen? Like, could you speak into that?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think we've taken the whole hustle thing. Like, we have this thing in the industry where we take something and we swing it so far the other way.
And so much entitlement. It's like, oh, people make $10,000 from like barely lifting a finger, like they do 1 post a week, or they do like 4 hours a day, which like can be people's realities at some point in time. But like most people, and I don't know if you agree with this and can speak into this, I know we're both in really high level containers, but I would say, I would go as far to say every single successful coach that I know, or business owner in general, has worked and they're doing like $10,000+ a month, has worked their ass off to get there in the beginning, and still do. It just looks different.
100%. When I started my salon, for example, with 2 small children, I was working 7 days a week just to build my clientele. You know, I was putting the kids to bed and then clients would be walking through the door. I would drop my kids off to my dad's for a few hours to give them dinner. Well, I went back and like, I did whatever I could to establish a solid brand and a solid clientele. We did the same thing in our gym. Like, it was 4 a.m. starts till 8 p.m. finishes, you know, like, and just a lot of work goes into those sort of things. And then you come online. It is the most, and sorry for swearing, like
most
fucking entitled industry when it comes to business.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I have ever met. Like, we come in and we're just like, oh, I didn't get 10K and I've only posted one, like, and I know that can sound so like harsh, but it's true, because if you've ever been in a bricks and mortar business, like in a coaching business, you can friggin' come up with an idea, create the idea, launch the idea, and have money in your bank account that day. There is no other industry where you can make that happen. And we just
that profit margin as well, with that profit margin and low expense. Like, it doesn't
100%.
cost anything to go on Canva and make your freaking graphic and post it. You don't even need to go on Canva. Like, you can just do that. Every other business, like, people are like, oh, like, you know, they don't want to invest in a coach, right? Because they haven't made the money yet. They want to make the money before they invest in the coach. But it's like, no other business does that. They have to buy all of the products and believe like in them being sold before they're sold. Like, they don't just pay for it only if someone buys it. Like, they have to invest like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in products before no one's even purchased. And then there's this like entitlement in this industry that like, it doesn't work like that here, you know? It's crazy.
Our gym cost us $100,000 before we'd even open the doors.
Yeah.
Like, a complete outlay and a commitment to a very expensive lease agreement per week with no guarantee that it was going to work. Like,
yeah.
So of course you're going to put in the hours, you're going to put in the time. Like, and I feel like the whole hustle word thing has been taken to extremes. Is there times where you're going to have to hustle and work to potentially get to your goals and dreams? Yes. And it's just like, can you actually be okay with that without playing the victim to like, oh, I'm going to get burnt out? Or it's like, have enough discernment to be able to like check in for yourself when you fucking need to take a break and have a decent sleep. Like it's just one of them things that people just take things to the extreme and then wonder why they're not growing their business or they're not succeeding. Like we go into different seasons, you know, and during that season, I wasn't going out on the weekends. Like it was a choice for me and it was a choice that I made. And when the kids would go to bed, I would be back on the laptop and then having to find the balance of that with a relationship and all the things. But it's so beyond possible. But I just think people really can just like, not activate leadership in those moments for themselves. And they'd rather really just keep themselves small and just blame the external things as to why they're not getting what it is that they want.
Yeah, I'm so glad we're having this conversation. It's like a topic I'm really, really passionate about because I want to see as many coaches as possible succeed. And like in order to do so, you have to be willing and able to, I think like the reoccurring theme in this conversation has been like take responsibility for your current situation and the results that you desire to create and go out and create them. And sometimes that's going to look messy, that's going to look hard, that's going to look uncomfortable, and it's not going to be easy. And when you see people online, such as like, I mean, the both of us say like that business can be easeful and abundant and luxurious and all of those things, which is also the truth in our reality. But that is only the reality because of all of the hard yards beforehand. And now the hard is just packaged differently now. So it's like we have a lot more freedom and flexibility now in our work, in our schedule, in the way in which we do things, so much more freedom, so much more impact. But that's only existing in our realities because we were willing to show up when it wasn't. We were willing to like not have this timeline and like fucked up expectation on when that would all come to fruition kind of thing, and being willing to imperfectly show up for ourselves and show up even in the low months, the low days, the low moments, and all of those things. And I think like that's such an important quality that I've noticed is reoccurring for every single coach and business owner that is really succeeding, like, and not just succeeding financially, but succeeding emotionally as well in business, and spiritually and all of those things. It's that totally had hustle beforehand, that had hard work and like sleepless nights and things like that. And I love that piece that you said around like check yourself, and like you don't need to go to that extreme as well where you just completely don't listen to your body and you know don't sleep and don't eat properly and don't look after your body. Like both can exist at the same time where you're working hard and you're also listening to yourself, you know. If you're looking to run impactful online challenges and events to grow your business, then I quickly want to talk to you about my new free offer, the 58K Launch Playbook. Come behind the scenes and see an insight to the content, the breakdown, the results, and the learnings from a recent successful event I ran that made me over $58,000. In this playbook, I will take you through the event outline. So I'll show you how I plan and organize my launches for success each month. You'll see a breakdown of my title, type of event, outline, outcome desire, dates, and more. You'll also receive the event content calendar. I take you behind the scenes of my exact content calendar for this entire launch that you can plug and play in your own business. The event results and stats. I share the exact figures, conversion rates, and signups I received throughout this launch so you know exactly how much was made and where it came from. And you'll also receive the event evaluation, which personally I find to be the most valuable out of this playbook. Here, I break down what worked overall, what didn't, and what I will do next time based on my experience, struggles, and results. Learn from my mistakes so you don't have to. Head to the link in the description to download your free copy now.
Totally. And I just think, it is such an important conversation in this industry. And I just feel there was something that you said that I was going to, it's gone. Don't you love that?
Yeah, we were talking about,
I remember what it was.
Just like around the hustle mentality is kind of what I was saying.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
And like something that I talk a lot about in my world is seasons, and it's really honoring the season that you're in. And like, even for myself, this is like what, April, May, my 4th, going into my 5th month full time. I'm in a building season again. It's like, can I actually just meet myself and being the beginner again, and having to put my head down and bum up a little bit whilst I'm growing? And it's like, can we actually be okay that we're going to go through winter, we're going to have summers, we're going to have springs? Like, who are you in those moments when it's time to like run? It's not that we're doing 2 to 4 hours every day forever. You know what I mean? There's going to be so many different seasons. And as you're growing your brand and you're pivoting and you're refining, some seasons are going to require more of you than others. And it's like, can you actually just hold the duality of that?
Yes, I love that. And it's so funny because we were just talking about this before we started recording, that like I'm actually about to move interstate. And I know that you just did that, but you moved overseas like not long ago. And so I actually decided yesterday, having a little conversation with myself, I'm like, do you know what? In order for me to feel really good about these next few weeks of like moving interstate, that's like a big, for me anyways, whilst I've moved overseas before, like this is packaged differently. Whilst it's like a good thing and it's an abundant thing and it's all for the better, it's still bittersweet. And I can make money during this time and I can scale during this time, but I actually decided yesterday that like I'm going to be focusing more so on just serving my clients during the next month. Like I've just chosen that my season is a delivery season of, I'm not going to be like selling so much right now. And again, money is still going to be coming in. Sales is still going to be made because that's the business foundation I've built, and I'm going to be in a launch, but it's going to look differently. And I've just made that decision so that I can show up as my best self for my clients and have a really like smooth transition, as that's my priority. So I really love what you said. It's like not every month is going to look the same. There are different seasons. And I think like acknowledging the seasons for what it is, and really fully owning them is really important. So I love that I can make money whilst moving and whilst doing all of the things. And I love my reoccurring revenue that's allowed me to then actually make a decision of like, I'm not going to be selling so hard in this next month. And that's so okay. And it actually doesn't affect me at all because of the business foundations that I've built, where literally tens of thousands of dollars come in, like regardless of whether I sell one thing online or not, which I think is really cool that you get to choose. But the only reason I'm able to choose is because I worked really hard to even have that reoccurring revenue to begin with. And so it sounds all amazing and butterflies and rainbows online when we talk about the freedom and the impact and the scalability, and know that was created off the back of like it totally not being like that at one point.
Yeah. And it's just a testament to the work that you've done and continue to do. And you know, like if anyone's working with Sofia or plans to work with Sofia, like this is what you want and it's long term. And honestly, like I'm just going to say it, it's not just going to happen in 6 months. Like find your person and follow them, model them, like figure out how they got there, what's their mindset, what's their process, because now you're in a place now, like you said, that you actually just freaking get to grieve the version of you that was and like actually enjoy this next chapter with you and your partner. And I can speak into that myself. Like you said, we just sold everything and decided to move overseas.
Yeah.
But I also got myself to a place where 2023, I already had $100,000 of recurring income that I was like, I'm already good even if I just sell nothing. Like I can be okay with 100 grand for the year if I really needed to be. You know what I mean? Like, and I think sometimes we can just get so caught up in the more. And you see people online. It's like sometimes it's actually just settling at the level you're at and just being so grateful, like with where you're at before going again. I think sometimes we can really miss that and just think that I've got to go to the next level. I got to go to the next level. And there's seasons for that as well. Don't get me wrong. But it's also just like honoring where you're at in your journey and finding your internal why and goals and just being okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's the sort of conversation I had with myself yesterday. Is like I can choose however I want to show up in this next month, but actually what's really important to me is my relationships. Like that's my core value, like always. That's like above anything else. It's above money, it's above anything materialistic, it's just above everything. And I really want to be present in this transition. Like I want to be as present as I possibly can my last moments here in Adelaide with my friends and family, and I want to be really present moving to Brisbane. I haven't actually said that anyway yet. And just really like just be able to like look back on this time and know that I was really present in it and it wasn't some rushed, chaotic thing. And I'm still working on that belief, like reminding myself that it doesn't have to be chaotic. I've used that word quite a number of times in the last week, but I'm slowly shifting on like, I get to choose how this reality is going to be. And I'm choosing for it to be like really present and smooth and abundant. And I know in order for that to be the case, like I need to just focus on like my relationships with my clients this month so that I can be as extremely present in this next month. And it's so cool to be able to choose that. And so, yeah, what a fun conversation we've had. I'm obsessed. I could talk to you for hours. Do you want to share with everyone how they can work with you, how they can follow you and learn more about you? Because I know that you've got lots of different ways that people can be in your containers in your space.
Yeah, so I really work with women to create their higher standards in business to bring in more cash and clients, essentially. And I really work with who you are and being the inner work, the human, the identity, all that sort of thing, and then how you do it, being the scalability, the strategy, all of those pieces. However, I do also have programs that are just self-development for people as well. And so, like, at the moment, I'm moving into quote unquote boundary season, where my signature program, the Year of Boundaries, doors are going to be opening next month, which I'm so freaking excited for. Like, this program is just, there's a lot happening inside of it. And it's like, if there's anything you're wanting to strengthen around boundaries and people pleasing, communication and relationships, like this program is going to give you everything that you need. And that is whether you're in your self-development journey or you're a coach and you're really struggling with boundaries in your business, you're struggling with communicating when you coach, like really that codependent connection that we can create with clients. You're a bit of a people pleaser in whatever concept in your business. Like, it's for a whole range of people, whether it's business or self-development, which I love. And yeah, like I've actually built most of my business in one-on-one, which was crazy. Like when I looked back, majority of it was one-on-one, and I still, as you know, like love one-on-one so much. It's one of my favorite things. But you can find me on Instagram predominantly. And I also have a podcast as well, which you will be on in the coming weeks, which is really exciting. So I think there's like 80 episodes you can get into your earballs over there as well. But yeah, predominantly I hang out on Instagram.
I love that. I'll make sure to link all of that, your podcast, your Instagram, all the other links. It's been so fun. Do you have any final words you want to share before we wrap up today?
I just honestly want to thank you. And I think it's just like, it's so amazing to find people in this industry that are just so heart-led and just like lead with integrity and lead with service. And yeah, for anyone listening, like Sofia's just the real deal. And I'm just like super grateful to be here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, likewise. I think I really value our friendship and the conversations we're able to have transparently with one another. And so exciting to now like bring this friendship we've created like online as well, which is really cool. And I'm just so grateful you've taken the time today. So thank you.
Thank you, love.
Are you ready to create aligned, scalable results in your coaching or service-based business? If so, I'd love to work with you. I support my clients through all stages in business through my signature programs. Rise to Coach, which is for new coaches or service providers wanting to sign their first clients through setting rock-solid foundations.